Hey everybody, welcome to Simply Nell's Tiny Studio. Welcome to another episode. Thank you so much for hanging out with me here in the Tiny Studio today. It is Wednesday, March the 12th, 2025. Girl, it's so much stuff going on in the country today. Where do I even begin? Do I even want to talk about it? I woke up today feeling so depressed, probably because I was watching television, watching the news last night, and went to sleep. And girl, with so much stuff going on in the world today, watching the news before you go to bed is not advisable. And I should be aware of that. However, that's exactly what I did. And I went to bed depressed, woke up in a funk. Woke up in a funk. As I said, today is Wednesday. And I am in the tiny studio. I'm getting ready to do some cleaning here in the tiny studio. I have a mess up there on my bookshelf. I have been busy, with school and whatnot. And so it's a mess over there. I'm going to clean that up very soon. And I've made a decision about the granny square blanket that I've been working on. And if you can tell, it's this blanket right here. I am going to be gifting that blanket to my grandmother. I'll be seeing her this summer. I'll be going home to visit. And so I am, just feverishly trying to make the granny squares that I need to sew or I need to attach to this beautiful blanket that I'll be gifting her this summer. I don't like working up to the last minute. I mean, I could put this off and wait, until maybe May and start back on it, but I'm not doing that. I am not waiting to the last minute to get this crap done. I'm going to get it. It's not crap. It's beautiful. It's art. I'm going to get it done now. We're moving towards the spring equinox, which is a brand new year for me. And I'm really excited about it. I have lots of plans. You remember that spring equinox blanket that I was working on last year? I have not finished it. I have been so disappointed with myself, but I thought the colors was going to work, but they did not work out at all. So I am in the process of frogging the entire project and just starting something new, doing something fresh and exciting. And I've been going through my granny square box that I purchased. I think I shared that with you here in the tiny studio. I've been going through the box looking for a granny square pattern that would be great for this blanket that's sitting on top of it. Now, this particular blanket here are full of granny squares that I made maybe about 7 years ago, because at one point I still consider myself a beginner, but I'm an intermediate crocheter. But at the beginning of my journey, I really wanted to make granny squares, but I just couldn't get the hang of it. So there are a few granny squares that I put together that looked okay to me, but I just put them aside because they weren't perfect. And someone said to me here in the tiny studio that I should still do something with them. And so I finally attached, that's this blanket here. I finally attached the squares together or sewed them together. And this is the beginnings of another blanket. And it's not as beautiful. Well, I should stop saying that. Art is art. I did it. I crafted it. I crocheted it, so it is beautiful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take more of those squares that I have from maybe about 7 years ago that, are to me not the greatest, but I'm going to put them into a blanket, and that blanket is going to come be here in the tiny studio as a testament that if you keep practicing, you keep working at something, you will eventually master it. You will eventually master it, but you cannot give up. Speaking of not giving up, this month, well, I should say on the 10th of March, I celebrated 3 years here on YouTube. 3 years on YouTube. I cannot believe it. I remember when I first started, my face was really full, and I was doing it because I wanted to contribute. I wanted to be another Black creator, content creator in the crochet community here on YouTube. I wanted to celebrate my 20 years of being a dreadlock diva, Lock Needs the Queen. I wanted to help other people on their journey, or people who were curious of, or, just really wanting to start their lock journey. I really wanted to tap into that part of, being a Black content creator, and offering something to giving back, basically. That was my goal. And not only that, I felt that the vintage Coach handbag creator channels, I felt that they needed, in my opinion, they needed another voice in that area. And so I wanted to be expressive of my collecting, or vintage Coach collecting. And so that's why I titled this channel simply Nell's Tiny Studio, because all of those things that I am converge here in my studio. So today, what's getting ready to happen is my son is on his way over, and I am going to make some bracelets for him, some protective stones bracelets for him, because he's going out of the country tomorrow. And so I want him to be protected as best that I know how to protect him. Because, when it comes to kids, especially adult kids, it's only so much you can do as far as protecting them, because he's a grown man. He works 2 jobs. He has a condo. He's doing his thing. He's living his life, and even though I get nervous about him, taking trips out of town, I know that this is a decision and a path and a journey that he has to take, even though I want to protect him. I want to protect all of my kids. It was something my mom said to me years ago, that when you have children who live in the house with you, they're on your mind because they live with you. But the children who live outside of your home are most so on your heart, because that they're living their life. They're on their journey. And there's really nothing that you can do to, you've done all that you can do as a parent to get them prepared to live their life outside of your home, outside of the nest, but it still weighs on your heart. And so I just want to do my part as his mom to protect him. As I said, as much as I can, as he, goes on vacation tomorrow. And like I said, I've been doing a lot of school work. I've had some health challenges lately, but I'm good. I feel strong. I feel confident. And, when you go through chronic health issues, it's really difficult to wake up each morning and face that day knowing that you have certain things that have to be done before you can be successful with your day, if you can understand what I'm saying. And so it becomes challenging, but I'm up for a good challenge, child. I don't let anything get me down. And if it does get me down, I don't stay down for long. That's me. But anyhow, I have my glasses on. I have my glasses on right now. I have my bifocals on. Let me take them off. Oh. Okay, that's better. All right, so. Okay, yeah, that's better. So today, what I wanted to chat with you guys about, and I'm not going to get into any politics or anything, but, the situation that's going on in the country today is just so distressing, That's why, I went to bed. After watching the news, and woke up in a funk. It's certain things that you cannot control. Certain things that's going on in the government today is out of my control, just complete out of my control. And I have to find ways to make peace with that. There's nothing that I can do. I can get angry, I can, in my own little world, do things that says resist, I can do that. But other than what I'm doing right now, I don't want it to consume me. And that's something that my husband and I are working on, not letting what's happening in the world and the country consume us, because that's not healthy. Not mentally, not emotionally, not physically, and certainly not spiritually. It's just not worth it letting what's going on in Washington consume our life, because we already live in Florida. So doo-doo already goes down here, and we're not happy about it. But we do the things that we need to do to show that we are resisting. Okay, so listen, we have lost so many great artists within the last 2 weeks, and we've lost the mom of the Notorious B.I.G., Christopher Wallace. His mom, Valletta Wallace, passed away. I believe her funeral service was yesterday in New York and Brooklyn. And we've just lost a lot of people in the music industry and people that I listened to, that I grew up listening to, people that my parents listened to on a regular basis, such as the wonderful Roberta Flack. Oh my God, Roberta Flack. Shoot. Where is the love? Where is the love? Where is the love? Where is the love? That's Roberta Flack, child. My husband and I danced to at our wedding reception a Roberta Flack classic. And Wyclef Jean and Lauryn Hill sung that song at Roberta Flack's funeral service the other day. And that song is The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face. And just thinking about Roberta Flack and the memories that I have of my mom playing her music on Cleanup Fridays. I mean, it was everything. And when Donny Hathaway, say his name, Donny Hathaway, say his name, Donny Hathaway. When he passed away back in 1978, I think, Roberta Flack had recorded an album, or released an album that had several of their duets on it that was supposed to be on a separate album. And of course, he was ill and he could not complete the album. And when he passed, or made his transition, she took the work that they had completed for a particular album together and put it on her own album. And one of those songs that I just loved was Back Together Again. You and I back together again. And I'm trying to think of the closer I get to you. That's the jam. And you are my love. You are my heaven. You are my love. Make me sing la-di-da. You are my love. You are my heaven. Darling, I won't let them take you away. That's Donny Hathaway and Roberta Flack. You've got a friend. Roberta Flack and Donny Hathaway. I mean, Roberta Flack has some jams. And then remember, she also sung some duets with Peabo Bryson, right? She helped introduce him to the world. And Roberta Flack, just one of a kind. Who can forget? No one can forget Killing Me Softly. Do you know the story behind Killing Me Softly? Roberta had been singing the song. As we know, Killing Me Softly with this song was sung by a Caucasian sister first. Caucasian sister. It was sung by an artist, and let me see if I can find her name real quick. And Roberta had been singing the song in concert for a while, and she liked the song, and let's see, there it is, Killing Me Softly. All right. Roberta Flack had been singing the song at some gigs, and her own version of it. The song Killing Me Softly was sung by Lori Lieberman, and it was a moderate hit. And Roberta liked it, and so she adapted it to her own style and was singing it at gigs. And Quincy Jones told Roberta, look, stop singing that song. He said, stop singing the song and record it. Stop singing the song, go into the studio and record this song. And she said, okay. And she went into the studio and she recorded it, and it just became a massive hit. I heard he sang a good song. I heard he had a style. And so I went to see him to listen for a while. And there he was, this young boy, a stranger to my eyes, strumming my pain with his fingers, singing my life with his words, killing me softly with his song, killing me softly with his song, telling my whole life with his words, killing me softly with his song. Yeah, that's the Roberta Flack. Yes, 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 yes. Good old school music, and just good music, period. Losing Roberta Flack, I believe that she had announced maybe 2 years ago that she had ALS. And so she passed away recently. So that's a loss. How about Jerry Butler? Oh my God. I love me some Jerry Butler. Now remember, Jerry Butler is 1/3 of the Impressions. So the Impressions had who? Curtis Mayfield, Jerry Butler, and let me not tell you a lie. Let me get it correctly. That's one thing about being a journalist. I like to get the facts. I don't like to be lying to people, even if I'm legitimately incorrect. I still like to tell the truth. All right, here we are, the Impressions. All right, and I know him. I can't think of his name right now, but we're going to find it. Okay, because at one point the Impressions were, I think it was like 5 members of the Impressions, and then here we go. Yep. Okay, so at the Impressions were once known as the Roosters, and so they had 5 members: Sam Gooden, Richard Brooks, Arthur Brooks, and Jerry Butler and Curtis Mayfield. Okay. Then the group became Jerry Butler and the Impressions. Then the Brooks brothers, literally the Brooks brothers, and Mr. Gooden left, and so they became 3. So then you had Sam Gooden, Curtis Mayfield, and Jerry Butler. Then Jerry Butler left, and then it was just Curtis Mayfield, Fred Cash, and Mr. Gooden came back. Okay, and so those were the Impressions. But the Impressions that made, that became famous was the the trio of Sam Gooden, Curtis Mayfield, and Fred Cash. Okay, so Jerry Butler is known for I'm in love with I was going to say Gypsy Woman, but that's not true. He wasn't in the group then. Or was he? Let's see. No, he wasn't. Okay, let me go to Jerry Butler's page because I can get tangled up in the impressions of it all, but we're not here for that. We're here to talk about the Iceman, Jerry Butler. Okay, so Jerry Butler, he had some hits. He had a duet called Let It Be Me. That was a hit for him. And oh man, this is the song I remember. My grandparents used to play it all the time. Only the strong survive. Only the strong survive. You gotta be a man, yeah. You gotta take a stand, yeah. That is Jerry Butler. And let me see, he had another song. Let me see. For Your Precious Love is one. Another is He Will Break Your Heart. And then he wrote let's see. He wrote a lot of songs though. That he gave to other artists. But oh, this is one that Isaac Hayes covered called Never Gonna Give You Up. Never gonna give you up. No matter how you treat me, never gonna give you up. That's Jerry Butler. And then my personal jam is Western Union Man. Send a telegram. Send a telegram to my baby. Western Union Man. Send a telegram. Send a telegram. Send a telegram. Send a telegram to my baby. That's Jerry Butler. So we lost. That's two giants. Roberta Flack, Jerry Butler. Okay, Chris Jasper of the Isley Brothers. Oh my God! Now that was a huge one for me. I'm a huge Isley Brothers fan, but I became a massive Isley Brothers fan after I started doing some research on Chris Jasper, because I not only like the Isley Brothers, but remember at one point, Isley Jasper Isley was a thing as well, because they had Caravan of Love. Every woman, every man, join the Caravan of Love. Stand up, stand up, stand up. Oh, Caravan of Love was the jam. How about another Isley Jasper Isley jam? Insatiable woman, my body's yours. I'm gonna keep on giving my love to you. Insatiable woman, my body's yours. Yeah, that's Chris Jasper. That's Isley Jasper Isley. And then they had another jam called Look the Other Way, Look the Other Way. Yeah, Chris Jasper. Now Chris Jasper and Marvin Isley and Ernie Isley, they were really an important part of the Isley Brothers evolution, because the Isley Brothers were a trio of the older brothers. I believe it was Ron, oh my God, they're on my mind, let me look it up. And I was just looking at some Isley Brothers things the other day at their music, because it was three older brothers first. Right. So the older brothers had hits in the 50s and 60s. So you had Rudolph, Ronald, and O'Kelly. Those were the older brothers, Isley Brothers. So they had You Make Me Wanna Shout, Shout. They had that, and then they had Twist and Shout, and I'm trying to think of how it goes, how it went. Shake it up, baby, now. Shake it up, baby. Twist and shout. Twist and shout. Come on, come on, come on, come on, baby, now. Come on, baby. Come on and work it on out. That is the Isley Brothers, okay? Now, the Beatles went on to cover that song, but the Isley Brothers made it famous. So, you know, they had hits in the 50s, 60s, and then they went to Motown, and they had what was that jam they had at Motown? This whole heart of mine's been broken 1,000 times. Each time you go away, I beg you to stay, or something like that. And then they had a quiet spell, and during this time, the younger brothers Marvin and Ernie were together with Chris, and they had their own group, and they were doing their own thing, right? And I guess the older brothers saw that the talent and the possibilities of integrating their younger brothers into the group. Chris was married to, and I think Chris was married, he was the brother-in-law of one of, I think it was maybe one of the brothers. I think it was either Marvin. I think it was Marvin. Something like that. They said that he was the brother-in-law of one of the brothers. The brothers was married to Chris's sister, and that's how he was connected with the Isley Brothers, Marvin and Ernie. And Chris Jasper was classically trained as a musician, and he is a classically trained musical artist. So integrating Ernie, and who was, you know, Jimi Hendrix, you know, lover, and then having Marvin on the bass and Chris doing drums and piano and all the things, because I believe Chris Jasper is like he can play multiple instruments, and he's a great lyricist and you know, producer. So the older Isley Brothers felt that it would be better and more beneficial to the Isley Brother group or brand to integrate Jasper Isley into their collective, and together they became the Isley Brothers, and their first album together was 3+3, because you had the 3 older brothers and then the 3 younger brothers and brother-in-law. And Chris Jasper was the mastermind behind all of the stuff that you heard from the Isley Brothers from 1971 all the way up into 1983. And that is a catalog of huge music when you think about it, because you can tell that it was highly produced well. The music, the instrumentation of the Isley Brothers productions, you knew it was somebody in there somewhere that was the, you know, the Svengali of it all. And it was Chris Jasper. He never, to me, in my opinion, he never got the recognition that he should have received. Because when you think of the Isley Brothers, you think of, you know, Mr. Big. You think of Ron. You know, and now you think of Ron and Ernie, but you don't think about Chris Jasper. If it wasn't for Chris Jasper and the younger brothers coming in, the Isley Brothers as a group would have faded away. You know, Chris Jasper talks about how he took the song called Hello, It's Me, which was originally recorded by, I can see his face. Oh, I hate when I do that. Let me look it up real quick. Todd Rundgren, okay? When Chris Jasper said that Ron Isley liked that song and wanted to record it. And so Chris was the one that came up with tailoring the song and reshaping it for Ron Isley. Such another jam, Summer Breeze by I believe that was Stilly Seals Crofton. Let me look it up. Let's see. Summer Breeze. Summer Breeze was written by Seals and Crofts. Okay, that's Seals and Crofts. Ron liked that song too. And what Chris Jasper did was he was able to craft the song to tailor it to the Isley Brothers sound that he was creating. And that's how, you know, Summer Breeze for the Isley Brothers became like a staple. It became a classic jam. Hello, It's Me. That became a classic jam. Chris Jasper is behind At Your Best, You Are Love. You know, Aaliyah remade that song, covered that song. That, you know, massive work. Fight the Power, 1 and 2. Chris Jasper. You know, Who's That Lady? Chris Jasper. You know, Atlantis. Chris Jasper. And, you know, eventually the fellas left the group again, and that was in, you know, the early 80s. There was a discussion within the group because, you know, Chris Jasper is a great vocalist as well, and he wanted to be able to sing some of the songs too, because, you know, in the Isley Brothers jam, you only hear one Isley, and that's Ron. But if you listen to Isley Jasper Isley, you realize Ernie sings, Marvin sings, Chris sings. So there were other singers in the group. However, the older brothers ruled the group with an iron fist, allegedly. And, you know, it was discussed that only Ron was going to do the singing. And, you know, the younger brothers decided to go back out on their own. And allegedly their last song, the song Between the Sheets, was supposed to be a project for Isley Jasper Isley. However, through whatever wrangling happened between the brothers and the brother-in-law, you know, eventually that song became an Isley Brothers song. However, Chris Jasper went on to record maybe about 10 more albums. He became a gospel artist. He was just an all-around great, you know, great musician. And he really should get more, you know, he should get more recognition for the work that he did, because the Isley Brothers that we know and love would not have happened had it not been for Chris Jasper. All right. So more power, rest in power, Chris Jasper. Who else did we lose? We lost Gwen McCrae. She had a hit song called Rockin' Chair. Sexy baby, sweet loving daddy, ooh, let me be your rocking chair. Let's rock away from here. Let's get it on. Come to me, baby, ooh, let me be your rocking chair. Just rock away from here. Yeah, that's Gwen McCrae. That was her number one jam. Her husband had a jam too. And let me see. Gwen McCrae and her husband was George McCrae. Yes. And his number one song was his song was Rock Your Baby. And how did that song go? Oh my God. Woman, take me in your arms, rock you, baby. Yeah. Gwen was doing work with KC from the KC and the Sunshine Band, and KC was looking for someone to sing this song. He was going to sing it, but you know, there's a high note in Rock Your Baby, and he couldn't make the note. So he was looking for someone to sing the song and hit that high note at the end, right? And so Gwen McCrae heard the song and heard Casey's dilemma in the studio, and she recommended to Casey her husband, George McCrae. And so George McCrae sung that song, Rock Your Baby, and that song became a #1 song, a classic song, okay? So Gwen McCrae, very instrumental in the catalog of popular music, of R&B music, soul music, classic music, disco music. Gwen McCrae, big one. We lost her last week, and I seem to be missing someone else. Roy Ayers. We lost Roy Ayers. Roy Ayers, love him. My dad listened to a lot of Roy Ayers. He played the xylophone, and so you could hear his work, and not just his own masterpieces of art, but you could hear his work in other artists' songs as well. Roy Ayers, what is he best known for? My life, my life, my life, my life in the sunshine. Do, 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 do. Everybody loves the sunshine. Yeah, that's, you know, that's the jam. And then remember Mary J. Sampled My Life in the Sunshine, and then you had, if you look in my life, then you see what I see. La 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 la. If you look in my life, you see what I see. Yep, she took that and she turned a classic into a bigger classic, you know. Roy Ayers, let me see. He played a lot of songs for, his instrumentation was used in a lot of other artists' songs, such as Rick James' Dance With Me. There's a break in the song where he say blow Roy Ayers, and then Roy Ayers comes in on the song, and then he starts jamming out. Yeah, I remember, you know, dancing to that song. You know, I was a huge Rick James fan. But yes, Roy Ayers was one of the featured instrumentalists on that song. And we just lost a lot of people, didn't we? You know, we lost a lot of people. Then Dwayne Wiggins from, you know, my personal favorite group of all time, Tony, or what my generation called the Tonys. We love them. Dwayne Wiggins. It's our anniversary. Made for you and me. Hey, little Walter. Hey, little Walter, hear me now. And then what else? It feels good. Yeah. It feels good. That's Tony. And my personal favorite where there's some name dropping going on is Whatever You Want. And that's where Dwayne really shines on that song. And what makes you think that I would try to run a game on you? Just as sure as my name is Dwayne, I'll be there for you, and I will treat you just like a queen and give you 5 things, and you will never have to worry about another in your place. So believe me when I say whatever you want, girl, you know I can provide. That is the Tonys featuring Dwayne Wiggins. So that's another great loss. And, you know, a lot of people think that when you are a musician, you're a celebrity and you have hits on the Billboard charts and maybe also international hits, that you are, you know, famous, that you have not only fame, but you have money as well. You have celebrity, you have fame, you have money because you have a hit song. And let me tell you, 10 times out of 10, that's a lie, because a lot of artists, many artists throughout the years have had #1 hits, but were basically broke, poor, busted. And it comes down to the predatorial practices of music industry, elites and executives that swindle artists out of their money, out of their coins. Now, the executives and the music industry label owners, they're living life grand and large, but seldom do their artists receive that same type of financial security in their lives. And that brings me to from the Tonys to Dawn Robinson. And we get to Dawn Robinson because she's entered a group called Hi son, you ready to go to work?
Yeah, it's starting his first day of Steak and Shake.
Oh, okay. That was my kids coming in to see what I was doing, and to let me know that my younger son was going to go off to his second job. All right, so anyhow, we're getting to Dawn Robinson now. And Dawn Robinson, unfortunately, is homeless and living in her car at this point in time in her life, which is very unfortunate. And, she was in the world famous, internationally famous group called En Vogue, the quartet of 4 beautiful African-American sisters who could really sing, really, truly could sing. And Dawn Robinson was one of the featured vocalists on some of their biggest hits. And the reason why she left the group, the reason why she left En Vogue is because, according to her, the money was funny. The math was not mathing. And she brought it up to the other ladies in the group, and for whatever reason they decided they did not want to rock the boat. But Dawn felt like she was not getting her share, and neither was the group, the other ladies. And so she eventually exited the group because she, the math wasn't mathing and the money was funny, honey. And she just, she had been struggling. And then she, was friends with Raphael Sadiq, who was one of the integral members of the Tonys, and Dwayne Wiggins' younger brother. And Raphael was, on a hiatus, or had really just left the Tonys. And he left the Tonys because of what? According to him, allegedly, the money was funny over at the Tonys. And so he had left them and got together with a brother from a tribe called Quest, and they decided to put together a trio featuring them and Dawn Robinson. And they had a hit song together. I wanna dance tonight, dance tonight. I wanna toast tonight, toast tonight. I wanna drink tonight, drink tonight. Freaking baby, yeah. That was Dawn Robinson. That was a hit song. I love that song. I have that song on rotation right now. Okay. So and Lucy Pearl, that was a Grammy nominated song. I think. Yeah, it was. That was a Grammy nominated song. So here we're thinking, yay, we got Raphael, you have brother from a tribe called Wes, we got we got Dawn. This is a monster group. Okay, they're going to go on and do good things. But that did not happen because Dawn eventually left that group because she said, what? The money was funny, child. She said allegedly Raphael was playing her for her coins, and they were friends. Okay, and I said this in the past on this channel, that friends and family will do you dirt each and every time if you let them. So she left Lucy Pearl because the money was funny, child. And she had been struggling hard, and then she got that gig at R&B Divas, right? And she was there for a little bit, and that's where she really told her story about what had happened, how she found herself struggling to maintain the house, the mortgage on the house that she had bought with a little bit of her In Vogue money. And she said it was a big struggle. It was a struggle. And I think she also said she was dating someone, or she was in a relationship with someone that, I think it was, her husband or something. And the math wasn't mathing because he became her manager. And it was just she just went through a series of unfortunate events, truly. And she said yesterday on Instagram that she was living in her car, child. Living in her car. And the situation was really sad because obviously she lost her house. And she was struggling so hard to maintain her house. But I guess she eventually lost it. Moved in with her family, her parents in Las Vegas. And she said that her manager had booked her some gigs in Los Angeles. And he invited her to come out there to live with him and his family. She mentioned that once she got to Los Angeles, when she got to LA and got to her manager's house, he then flipped on her and told her that she couldn't stay with he could not stay with him and his family because he didn't have any room. All right. So he, put her up at a hotel, and she said she was at a hotel probably at her own expense for a while, as long as the gigs worked out. But eventually, I'm guessing that when the gigs ran out, so did the money, because that means the manager's not getting paid. And if the manager's not getting paid, how is he able to put you up in a hotel or something? So she says she's been living in her car for 3 years. Living in her car for 3 years. Now, I know there's a thing going on called van life, tiny house living, and car living. I know that. I watch, I watch a lot of people in that community on YouTube. Oh, here on YouTube. And I know it can be stressful at times, living and sleeping in your car, But it's unfortunate that an artist as talented as Dawn Robinson, that she is living in her car. There's no reason why a multi-talented artist such as Dawn should be living in her car. It really isn't. But this is symptomatic of what a lot of artists are going through right now. A lot of people that you know and love are living in their cars or sleeping on the couches of friends and relatives' homes. Maybe they're living on the streets right now, living in efficiency motels. What's the group called? DeBarge. There's going to be a documentary out on them in a minute. Where the documentary is out, I guess it'll be released to the general public probably sometime this summer if it gets picked up by a major studio. And, the trailer showed them in a trailer. It showed James DeBarge and Randy DeBarge living in a trailer in Los Angeles. So it's a lot of people who are artists who are literally starving. Artists that you and I have come to love and know. Artists whose music that we play often on our Spotify's, or on our iTunes. Is that what they're called? Because I don't have an Apple device. I use Samsung. There are so many different artists that we love who are not living, who are not living a good life, who are not having big fun, who are broke and poor. Broken poor. How about poor and broken down? That's more like it. Because of, the inequities of the entertainment business. And you can take that all the way back in time. We can go up to Motown. We can go beyond Motown, because there are so many artists today who are in their 80s and 90s, music artists who, even though they were part of historic, groundbreaking groups, they're living in poverty. And you can hear their music all the time, but they're living in poverty. You know, there are a lot of these same music artists who have to tour, even though they're sickly and they're ill, but they have to tour because they need the money to survive on. I was just thinking about Frankie Valli. Have you guys seen the footage of Frankie Valli? I don't know what's going on with him and his guardians, but you know, he's not, they're putting him on stage. It's obvious that he doesn't know what the hell is going on, but they have him propped up on stage, lip syncing his own tunes. And I'm sure it's because he doesn't have any money. All right. And they're touring, putting him up there on stage to get money to be able to support him, his family, and, you know, the people that, are in the background supporting, the band and all of that stuff, It's just a big mess. I mean, if you don't own your music, if you don't own your publishing, if you don't own a piece of the writing or any of those things, if you're just singing on a jam, the only thing you can expect is a little bit of fame, some celebrity, and maybe a bag of money for the moment. But if you're not a person that is good at investing your money, and the way the music industry is set up so that the bag that you do get from the music is not a good bag. I mean, didn't Lisa Left Eye Lopez tell us about that? And in TLC's unsung documentary that told us, or was it Behind the Music? I think it was Behind the Music, where Lisa Left Eye told us how it really goes down when it comes to getting that so-called bag from the industry. You thinking that, hey, I have a #1 song. I sold 10 million copies of it. I should be getting paid. And then when Lisa broke it all the way down, she said she came away with her cut was about, what did she say? Maybe about $50,000 or $60,000. And then she said when she really broke it all the way down to her own management and clothing, she came away with $30,000. $30,000 after it was all 10 million records all the way down to $30,000. So it's a lot of people out here who are struggling, struggling. And they had the hits, they had the songs, and some of them die. Okay, they die in obscurity, or they die impoverished. It's true. It's sad, but it's true. So now I'm feeling bad. I started out feeling depressed, and then I started, talking about these artists that I love that passed away and their music. I started feeling good, and now I'm depressed again. What? Nell, you got to do better. All right, so I've been on here a little bit longer than I previously had scheduled to be on here, but I just really wanted to honor our new ancestors. I wanted to honor them because they brought me, they brought my mother, they brought my dad. They brought us a lot of sunshine through their music, and we can never forget that, and never downplay it, because their music were a very integral part of our lives, an integral part of my life, Hey, Western Union man, send a telegram to my baby. Whatever you want, girl, I can provide, just me and you, ooh, baby. Sexy baby, good and loving daddy, woo, let me be your rocking chair, just a rock away from here. Yeah, that's what's up. That's really what's up. You know what I mean? I heard he sang a good song. I heard he had a style. And so I went to see him to listen for a while. And there he was, this young boy, a stranger to my eyes, the first time ever I saw your face. That's what's up. So I will talk to you guys later. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. I'm your girl, Nell.